true self shines as a star. I'm ascending as a spirit in flight. Oh, powers of light. I am grateful.
Friday, June 19th, 2026. Welcome to the premiere broadcast of Offworld with JMC. And joining us today is Alex Collier and Special Forces retired Colonel Chuck Sellers. Now, each month, I will be convening a panel of individuals who have either studied off-world phenomenon or have eyewitnessed personal experiences concerning the subject at hand. This also may include government officials to assist in further reporting on this very subject. This will be a JMC Broadcasting monthly production and will be published across our distribution network. Today, in this premiere episode, I will lay the groundwork in my monologue, then bring on my two guests to begin chipping away, if you will, at this unprecedented time in human history that may challenge many of us in many different ways and may also be a sigh of relief for others. I ask you simply to listen. Back in May of 2026, President and Commander-in-Chief Donald J. Trump published this statement on social media. The first of three tranches of files have been released to the public beginning May 8th, 2026. The president stated this, and I quote, "As for my promise to you, the Department of War has released the first tranche of the UFO UAP files to the public for their review and study. In an effort to complete and maximum transparency, it was my honor to direct my administration to identify and provide government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAP, and unidentified flying objects, UFOs. Whereas previous administrations have failed to be transparent on this subject, with these new documents and videos, the people can decide for themselves what the hell is going on. Have fun and enjoy." End quote. So I encourage you to visit war.gov/UFO, where it has been reported now that well over 1 billion people have already been to this website. And so, since the release of these files, we are now beginning to see various videos and images, not only on social media, but also being covered on mainstream news outlets, such as Fox News, for example. And of course, we are also being subject to images and videos where we begin to question, is this the official file release, or are these digital enhancements and AI? Well, folks, we'll have very much to sort out over time. All right, let's take a look at image number 12. All right, here we have Representative Tim Burchett. Americans would be up at night worrying if they knew the truth about alien life. Next image, please. Well, we know these faces. Some of you may recall Hillary Clinton back in the day tasking of John Podesta, saying to him, "Hey, John, is it time to use the alien card?" Anything that she would commandeer, in my humble opinion, would not be for the betterment of mankind, but rather for sinister and nefarious purposes. Could this be but one of the reasons that President Donald J. Trump has begun releasing these files to take away their ability to, quote, use the alien card by responsibly releasing files in truth and transparency, circumventing the use of the, quote, alien card? Something for all of us to ponder. Well, in any case, the files are now, in fact, being released, and in my opinion, will continue to be for some time to come. Here's a quick clip from Congressman Tim Burchett back in April, 1 month prior to the first UFO file release. Run the clip.
Wait, seriously? Are you being serious, or is that
I'm
tongue in
being
cheek?
100% serious. Okay. I've been 100% serious. I've been briefed by just about every alphabet agency there is. And I'll just tell you this, if they would release the things that I've seen, you would stay up, you'd be up at night worrying about or thinking about this stuff. We just need to disclose it all. I'm sick of it. Well, I was briefed. I'll just tell you this. I was briefed last week on an issue, or excuse me, 2 weeks ago, and it would have set the earth on. This country would have come unglued, I think, if they would have heard all that I heard. They would demand answers.
Thank you. Let's run the next clip. Fast forward to the next clip.
Former director of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, Lou Elizondo, along with Congressman Tim Burchett. Thank you both for joining us. Let me start with you, Lou. You've been through these new files that have just released. Probably some of them were already somewhat familiar to you. Tell us what's new that's come out.
Well, first of all, you have the FBI reports coming out where very recently they were conducting an investigation where FBI, by the way, seasoned FBI agents, I know who they are, actually witnessed these glowing orbs. And by the way, it wasn't only limited just to FBI agents. About 2 weeks ago, the second tranche of files was released by the White House and the Department of War. And you had a senior official in the Director of National Intelligence who was actually sent, now listen to this, sent to go investigate some orbs that were witnessed around a sensitive military installation. And it turns out that even during his helicopter trip, he himself and the pilot witnessed these orbs, in some cases 20 feet away from the helicopter. And by the way, let me say this. We would not be having this discussion today if it wasn't for the guest that you have right next to you right now, Congressman Tim Burchett and his colleagues. They're on the task force for transparency. So we really owe a lot of this to the gentleman that's also sharing the screen.
Well, Congressman, I am very grateful to you for this, but I have to ask you first off, what is it about the federal government that they are so afraid of transparency when it comes to this issue?
It could be a lot of reasons. I think one of them is just arrogance. The Bible says, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and every one of them thinks they're the greatest thing in the world. I sit in a secure briefing with some little punk with a man bun telling me that the president's on a need-to-know basis. Imagine that. An unelected bureaucrat is sitting there telling military officials, these guys were high-ranking people that were beside him, and members of Congress, that the president is on a need-to-know basis, and he was the gatekeeper. And another, just imagine if you had this energy source that these things are possibly capable of. These things are hovering for hours on end. They shoot up straight up at speeds that we can't even fathom. Just imagine if we could heat our homes in the winter and cool them in the summer. We'd put the war pimps at the Pentagon out of business. We wouldn't be fighting all these wars over oil. And thank goodness we have President Trump in the White House who kept his word to me and kept his word on this issue and said, you know, he told me, he said, Tim, I'm going to release them for whatever, good or bad. And he did it. He kept his word, and because he is not beholden to that bunch, and he stands on his own. So I appreciate him.
Yeah.
Now, I produce a show. Those that follow my work at JMC Broadcasting are familiar with retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi of Australia. I run a bi-weekly show called Bossi Briefs. Here's a brief statement from Ricardo Bossi on the subject matter at hand.
This is the same, and we're going to find out there are extraterrestrials. We are going to find out that they've been on this piece of rock for a long, long time, much longer than we can imagine. We're going to find out there are ET tech that's been reverse engineered and flown by US pilots for a long time. We're going to find out a whole bunch of things, but he intelligently said, hey, I'll release the files and you can make up your own mind. Now, is everything going to come out at once? No, of course not. It'll come out at a rate that is digestible.
And now this from Jesse Waters.
You won't believe what Fox said.
Dozens of crashed UFOs have been recovered, and what they found inside, shocking. 4 different species of aliens: Greys, Nordics, insectoids, and reptilians.
We see on the screen here 35 types of aliens. Jesse Waters just alluded to 4 of them, You can screenshot this and study it a little bit further later. But there's image 11. Let's take a look at image 0. So let's pedal back just a bit. A couple of months ago, it was reported that 10 scientists known for their research work and disclosure on off-planet type data died, including notably David Wilcock, along with another 5 individuals reported as, quote, missing. This, at the same time, President Donald J. Trump terminated every member on some related board, I believe, formed by NASA many, many years ago, again, studying this subject, all terminated. This brings us to Steven Spielberg. Whether it's Spielberg 2.0 or the actual Spielberg, his new film, just released last week, titled Disclosure Day, hits the theaters worldwide, and to mostly, from my discovery, excellent reviews. I did see the film. I saw it here in Thailand just the other day. And in my opinion, it is of no coincidence that this film has been released at this very time frame where the real world disclosure is being released by our commander-in-chief. So I do encourage you to see this film. It's a good investment of your time. Raise a lot of questions, provide some answers for people. There are several important messages and takeaways in this film. And again, I encourage you to listen. All right, move on. Here we have Steven Spielberg showed new footage at an event. The film is called Disclosure Day. It is about aliens, and he said it is more truth than fiction. Hollywood is preparing us. Next image. Spielberg again. Alleged statement from filmmaker Spielberg reignites global UFO disclosure debate as claims suggest extraterrestrial presence may already be here on Earth. All right. Alex Collier is a contactee, researcher, lecturer, and educator whose work has made him a distinctive voice within the UFO, alien, contact, truth-seeking, consciousness, health, finance, and preparedness communities. He is best known for sharing information from fifth-dimensional extraterrestrials, particularly teachings on humanity's spiritual evolution, free will, hidden history, extraterrestrial influence, personal responsibility, and the future of Earth. Alex's mission is to help awaken humanity to its greater potential, encourage discernment amid conflicting information, and inspire people to build a freer, cleaner, more conscious world for future generations. His work appeals to those interested in UFOlogy, extraterrestrial contact, spiritual evolution, alternative history, truth research, health, finance, and preparedness. Please welcome Alex Collier.
Thank you, Michael. It's an absolute honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, sir. Nice to meet you. We chatted briefly in the digital green room before we launched. Very much look forward to the information and experiences and education that you're going to be providing for those listening to us today. Before I have you weigh in on some of the current events that are unfolding, tell us, if you will, take your time, tell us about your work and your studies concerning what I will simply call off-world activity.
Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In a nutshell, the information that has been shared with me from fifth dimensional extraterrestrials from the constellation of Andromeda is that humanity is much older than we realize. That humanity, those of us who contain soul, have lived other lives in other realms, other planets, other civilizations. And that however old time is, so are we. We just find ourselves stuck on a planet that it's like jello. It's like jello. And we're trying to figure out a way to work with it, to work around it, to deal with all the contradictions that the world is telling us on how to be and who to be, when in reality, when we go within, we realize that we're so much more. And there has not been an opportunity or a place that's been provided to allow us to be so much more. Together, we have more abilities and more power than we ever could imagine. And this is something that many of the benevolent races want us to know. They want us, and they have offered to assist us in remembering who we are so that we could take responsibility for ourselves, become a sovereign civilization, and grow up into advanced maturity and become part of the galactic community, of which we, on a genetic level, already know many of these races. It's an amazing story. You just simply couldn't make up everything that we are, and sadly, we're the last to know about it.
Thank you, sir. I'm observing your Space Force hat. How could you best describe Space Force and its and its origins, if you will?
Well, let's just say it's the point of the spear. They're the point of the spear right now, and it's in the right place at the right time, and they absolutely know what's going on.
That is very
Seriously.
encouraging.
They do. They know exactly what's going on.
That is, I so much look forward to this episode that we've just launched. Thank you, Alex. I'm going to introduce our next guest, and then we're going to have a panel discussion and move us all through the portal, if you will. Chuck Sellers is a retired U.S. Army colonel with just under 26 years of active duty service. He was commissioned in 1978 as an infantry officer and completed the Special Forces Qualification course in 1983. He served multiple tours with the 10th Special Forces Group as an A attachment commander and with the 101st Airborne Division as an infantry company commander. Back in 1987, Chuck successfully completed selection for 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment, Delta Airborne. He served in Delta Force as a troop commander, squadron operations officer, squadron commander, and executive officer, ultimately retiring in 2004 as a deputy commander. His combat and operational deployments include Beirut, 1983-84, Operation Just Cause in Panama, 1989, the First Gulf War, 1991, Colombia, 1993, Bosnia, 95 and 99 through 2000, and 2 tours in Afghanistan back in 2001 and 2002, serving on a joint special operations task force. Following retirement from the U.S. Army, Chuck worked as a government contractor supporting U.S. Special Ops Command training programs and later served as a regional security manager for major oil, gas, and chemical industry service companies. He officially retired from professional service back in December of 2022. Those that follow us at JMC Broadcasting know that Chuck is a frequent panel guest at the Global Defense War Monthly panel broadcast that we provide, and he will be sharing with us in this broadcast today, a little bit later on, his personal encounters with off-world entities. Please welcome retired Colonel Chuck Sellers. Welcome, sir. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thank you for being here. This is, we're in a different turf now from our military discussion, but with your extensive military background and personal experiences, I can't think of a better guest to join us with Alex, join me and Alex here today than you, sir. Thank you for being here. You know, there's so many areas to comb through, and to our audience, this is a premier show. We're chipping away, we're scratching the surface, we're raising some discussions, we're coattailing off of what the mainstream media and our great commander-in-chief is releasing to the world. And we're going to pick up that and move forward a little bit with that ball. So, Chuck, what do you make of the dead scientists, the NASA termination that I mentioned in the monologue, the release of the UFO files, and the Spielberg movie, all this converging upon us at the same time? What do you make of these events?
It's hard to think that they're not somehow connected. The scientists came from different walks of profession, technical professions and this and that, but they all end up. It looks like it's connected somewhere along the line down there to the even to the point where one of the last guys to disappear was an Air Force Major General William McCasland, and it just so happens that's why I think it's all of it's connected. He actually served. He was in the Air Force Research Lab at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where supposedly the UFOs that are recovered are stored on that base. And he was and that was at Wright-Patterson. He was the Air Force commander of Air Force Intelligence Office, and all of these things. He disappears. He was the last one of these scientists that disappear, and he was heavily into the technical commands and this and that. So I think there's something to it. It's very, and you got them. It's very connected. You got four from New Mexico. They were all working with Sandia National Labs and those nuclear physics type situations. You've got 4 cases that have disappeared out in California. Same thing, all working with astrophysics and technical professions. And then you've got guys from MIT that go missing on the East Coast that were all with pharmaceutical scientists, professional laboratories. So you just have to scratch your head that over a course of about 3 to 4 years, all these people with similar backgrounds start disappearing or going dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that there's no coincidence that it's coming out, that it's, on the verge of the release, that was ordered by President Trump on all of the UFO files and this and that. So, I think that it's kind of like all of it looks like it's loosely connected, in my opinion.
Yep. I think that's probably highly accurate. Alex, did you care to weigh in on this as well? All these events converging at once?
I agree. They probably, in some fashion or manner, were working on specific elements of off-the-shelf programs, black budget programs, bigoted programs. There's so many different names for some of these that that they had maybe key pieces, or they could offer information regarding, say, free energy, unlimited propulsion systems, time travel, the healing of the body using frequencies, as opposed to pharmaceuticals. There's so many different ways that these people could have been connected to all the different areas and topics of conversation that are now present within the entire social structure on the planet. People want to know. They're waking up and they want to know. They want answers. And it's getting very, very difficult for the governments to continue to lie about it.
Isn't that a good thing? The age of disclosure and transparency by default. Alex, while I've got you, what's your comments about some of the images that I run in the monologue? Where we see these ETs and these Nordic characters, and it's a little bit difficult for us to determine. We've seen video clips of the president walking, with 12-foot tall off-body entities on military bases, and then you got still photographs. In my opinion, some of these are probably is true release, and some of it maybe is artificially put out there by others. What do you make of these images we're seeing?
Well, it's interesting, how much of it is AI and how much of it isn't. It's very, very difficult. Isn't it interesting at this particular time, as we are discovering and breaking down the matrix, we create a software program or release it that can create anything without human thought. I mean, it's like, make up your mind. What is it that you want, humanity? Because AI can just about do anything. If it's not controlled, it'll get very, very scary. If we were to honestly look at history, like the Sumerian texts, they're all about extraterrestrials being here, present on the earth. If we look at the Chaldean scrolls, they talk about their civilization inviting the Titans, who were extraterrestrials, to sit in council with them as their presiding laws. Many of the Arabic history, which many archaeologists call fiction, is really about the history of humanity working with and interacting with different extraterrestrial races, going back, anywhere from 12 to 20,000 years ago. The Indian culture talks about extraterrestrials all over the place. They were hailed as gods or princes or creators. I mean, it's everywhere in our history. It's just we've been convinced that it's fiction, and it's anything but fiction. So it's like history. What was it that the Q team said? Future proofs past, right? Wasn't that what they said? Future proofs past. I see that coming to fruition, where we're going to fully understand the past, even that which we don't know yet, because of the events that are happening now and in the near future. And it's what it's going to do. It's going to bring humanity to a center point. And at some moment, John, I'm convinced we're going to have an aha moment. And that aha moment is, whoa, who are we really? And humanity is going to ask that question, and the universe is going to give us the answer. We're not a chemical pool of, we're not a mistake. We aren't useless eaters. We're none of that. We are sovereign sons and daughters of a creator that is able to make dimensions and create space that becomes a universe. And we're going to understand that very soon.
Music to my ears. That's a great place to start. Who are we? I mean, that's a good place to start. Thank you, sir. Chuck, briefly, because I know you're going to share your story, and Alex has stories as well of firsthand visits and so forth. But before we go there, and I know you've got an image to share that you screenshotted of a visitation. But before we get into that, what's your views of the images that we've been seeing? You've got firsthand experience.
They don't look similar to the ones that I happen to have seen in my experience, but that doesn't mean they're any less real, in my opinion, because there's when and to link this together, we see the release of the files that's happening right now, Trump's command, But I think what President Trump really is doing, he's closing the loop that was opened in 1954 at the signing of the Greada Treaty by the Eisenhower administration. Now, we had options back then. We had the choice of signing that treaty with four different types of extraterrestrials. There were four races of extraterrestrials that were talking to the government in DC in that time frame in the starting at the end of World War II, but especially during the early 1950s. There were Nordics. There were tall humanoid, the tall whites, 9 feet tall. There were the reptilians and the grays. All of them were talking about possibly making a treaty. The one that would have made the most sense would have been to sign with the Nordics, who look like us and we look like them. But their demands were too much for the United States to be able to accept. They wanted us to give up our nuclear programs. They wanted us to start peaceful existence with all humanity, within all of humanity. But they refused to give us technology because they thought that we were not adequately emotionally and mentally prepared to handle that technology and not kill each other off. So what did we do? The Eisenhower administration ended up signing a treaty with the Greys, the Gray aliens, the Greada Treaty. I think Trump is making that right because the Greada Treaty, the stipulations of the treaty were that the Greys were able to kidnap humans, not large amounts of humans, but kidnap humans. And then they would bring them back. They would not harm them. They'd have no memory of being taken, and they would be doing it in reasonable numbers. And that was in exchange for technological advancement. Well, they broke that treaty, and people started going missing by the hundreds of thousands after that treaty was signed. And I think that this is the logical conclusion to signing a bad treaty in 1954 with the wrong people. And Trump is bringing that thing full circle, and we're going to fix it. And now we're going to fix it with the right contacts with these alien races. I think these two things are just inextricably intertwined.
Fascinating. Thank you, Chuck Sellers. Alex, you want to weigh in on this? This is, I'm getting an education here, and I'm sure most of our audience is. Thank you, sir.
Colonel Sellers hit the nail on the head. He really has. And, he's absolutely right. Because of the atrocities that have occurred here, there is been an agreed upon intervention on humanity's behalf by benevolent races that see us in a very completely different light. And in some manner and fashion, they also feel like they're genetically connected to us, which is something that I alluded to earlier. And this is turning around. And what we talked about before we went live is that, the benevolent, the Star Alliance is winning. We have pushed out some of the races that were really doing humanity harm or were not of service to humanity in any way, shape, or form. They were very self-serving. They have been pushed out. And there are just a few little pockets of areas that are left. And, it's only a matter of time before we fully understand that not only have we never been alone, but we have a lot more in common than we could possibly imagine with many of the other star races. Many of them have been through much of the trials and tribulations that our humanity, our civilization has been and is going through, even going deep into the past, which many of us don't have a full picture of. So they understand, they're empathetic about what humanity has gone through in the fight that we've been dealing with in order just to survive. You know, one question that one of the Andromedans said to me once, Visayas, I was asked to explain money to them. So over a period of 3 weeks, I make different presentations to them about why we use money. And when it was over with, Mornay, who was the other Andromedan, said, thank you very much. Visayas just looked at me and he said, I don't understand. Why do you have to pay to live on a planet you were born on? Boom. You know, there is no answer for that. There really is no answer for that, except for control and manipulation.
Thank you, sir. I want to follow up with a question. You referenced star alliances, and I'm using the term other entities, and we had up on the screen all the different types of aliens and ETs and so forth. Here on Earth, the human race, we spiritual beings having this human experience, we clearly have good and evil on this planet through humans. We can see that. One could call us an insane race and probably a laughing stock of the universe. But having said that, good and evil is my question. We have that. We're in a spiritual battle between good and evil right now. And my question to you, sir, is these alliances and these other entities that we've been discussing, are there good ones and bad ones?
Yes, there's a great deal of contrast.
Talk about that, if you will, please. And we'll go to Chuck Sellers in a moment.
Okay, well, we've had a great deal of that contrast play itself out here in the history of our planet, you know, going back even before the destruction of Atlantis. You know, much of the history that's there. We know about the Pyramid Wars. A lot of this is in the Sumerian texts. The Pleiadian information that's been shared from Sirius A, Sirius B. There's a lot of information, ancient history, that has been shared. Even the Essenes talk about the battle between light and dark, between different forces that are not of the earth. And so our ancient forefathers and foremothers knew about this. It's just that there was a period of time where it appeared that the darkness was going to win. And therefore, they were successful in creating an amnesia of our history to humanity, keeping us not knowing anything about our history and who we are as a genuine civilization, which kept us off balance. And without that knowledge, we really didn't know who we are. And it's only really until I would say probably the Kennedy assassination was a very pivotal moment where things really began to shift with humanity, because that was an event that worldwide really shaped and really bothered a lot of people. And I mean, you could even go back to the dropping of nuclear weapons on Japan. All of those were pivotal moments. We realized that there was something very, very wrong, that we would do this to each other. And then we would build an industry, an economy based on hurting each other. So this was all part of the plan to keep us divided. And for in large part, they were very, very successful in doing it. I don't know if Colonel Sellers would want to talk about Project Looking Glass, but this was real tech that has been used. And what's really interesting about it is that it showed the awakening of humanity's consciousness. And no matter what the dark side did, humanity was going to achieve full consciousness. We were going to become aware of who we are. And that's what we see playing out now, is that very slowly this movement is happening. And because we have very good people around the world wanting to assist this awakening of humanity, that now we have this information coming out. We have conversations about extraterrestrials. We have conversations coming out about med beds, of free energy, of holistic living, ether energy. There are so many things that are coming out, colonizing other planets, starting with the moon. There's all these things that are now going mainstream that take our consciousness, instead of being stuck, it allows us to reach up into the sky and look to the heavens and realize that we're not stuck here. We're not prisoners any longer on our planet. And we're not going to be treated like that any longer either.
Fascinating time we're in, and I'm happy to be here during this transition. Chuck, do you care to weigh in on what Alex commented on, and also the good and evil that exists on these other entities, and the Project Looking Glass? Anything else you want to bring to the surface here?
I think the only thing that I'm really familiar with was the remote viewing, and I think that was part of Looking Glass as well. That was it was a big Cold War project, classified project, to be able to remote view somewhere else, situation in a building or in a certain place, and be able to bring that back for military purposes. Basically, it was a lot of work in the Cold War was done on it, and it was highly classified. And there's been movies about it. But talking about what Alex made a comment on about the history of the world, when I was visited, this was in June of 2021. I was visited by a team of individuals, and starting with 8 people on the first night. It was a Monday night, June 7th, and they walked in the house and basically walked right through the wall, like what Alex had mentioned earlier. They walked right through the back wall of my house and then just spread out in the house, and we started talking. They were telling me just information about, I was asking information about, there's a galactic war going on, from what I understand, with the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And I was just wondering, are we winning? And they told me that, yes, we were winning. And that the war had been going on for a long time, but we were doing well. All kinds of, it was a really interesting 2.5 hours that they stayed. And it was, they never said a word to me. It was all telepathic and asking questions back and forth, just thinking questions to each other. But they were interested at one point. They actually, one of the men, there were 4 men and 4 women. 7 of them looked human, like you and I. One of them did not. I think she was Tashkero from the research that I did on it, from the Lyran system. She had wide set eyes, a really thin, long face, white blonde hair, beautiful, really. I mean, but you could tell was not classically human. She was, she had differences in her face. But at one point, we were talking, we were just exchanging information, to the point where they were asking me questions about just mundane things in the house. What do you call this? Like they touch a window and say, "What is this?" And I would explain, "It's a glass window. What is glass?" And this went on for, they were there for about 2.5 hours. And then they just left. They did ask me to reproduce some star charts for them, which in the end I wasn't able to do because the material that they left that for me to reproduce was so fragile that when I touch it with my fingers, it would crumble. So I was never able to do it. But I got visited again the next day by one of the party, and one person came back every day for the next 3 days. One of their team members, and they reproduced somehow or other. They reproduced the star charts and took them away with them at the end. But during the course of that time, um, they took me into a bedroom. The person that was there took me into a bedroom and they basically it was like a movie on the wall of the bedroom that just ticker taped all the way around the walls of the bedroom for hours. It went for hours. And my gut feeling, it was all about war, violence, disease, and it just kept going on and on, over and over. And then it finally dawned on me. They're showing me the history of the world from the beginning, and I was convinced of it. I was absolutely convinced that that's what they were showing me. So I mean, I think that dovetails with what Alex was saying about the lost history, the human lost history, from thousands and thousands of years ago. I mean, I think it's absolutely possible. One of my first memories, and I swear I had this memory all the time, I would picture myself, I could remember myself in a black uniform on the bridge of a starship, and we were fighting the Lyran Wars 22 million years ago. And I was a captain on that starship. And then in my memory, we died in that battle. So that memory just has stuck with me for so many years, that it's kind of like ingrained in me as it stands right now. And I'll shut up for a second and let comment happen.
Thank you for the space here, and thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to stay with you for a few moments, sir. Simple questions that I know are on the minds of those listening to your experience. Would you summarize the visitation, multiple, that you just walked us through, as a good experience or a bad experience? Were they here to help?
I think it was a good experience. They never threatened me. They answered questions the best they could answer to me. I never felt threatened by them at all. I think that they were showing actual interest in what we were talking about and what we were doing. And it's interesting because I've seen craft in the skies and this and that. I've seen UFOs. Almost all of it was after this team came, and I believe that they actually told me, we're leaving now and we're off to the West Coast. We're going to meet an individual very similar to you, and we're going to do basically the same thing that we did with you tonight. And then they said, and the next one, once we're done with California, we're going to go to New York and do the same thing again. So my complete, at least feeling and understanding, was that they have people that are already identified, like they did reconnaissance prior to the visits. And like I was chosen prior to the visit. Why was I chosen? I think it's because I might have an open mind about it, not afraid to talk to them, not afraid to interact with them. And maybe they're there to set the stage for ongoing contact in the future. And they might have been from the future. Maybe it's not interstellar or anything. They could have been us from 500 years in the future, for all I know. But I think that that's what was going on. I think they picked their targets, for lack of a better word. They did reconnaissance on us, and like I'm saying, I don't think I'm the only one. But our interaction, I think, is meant to set the stage for future contact. And I can see them coming and asking us to talk for them and about them to our own kind, and maybe make that transition to full knowledge easier.
Well,
thank you, Chuck. One last. Go ahead, Alex.
I'm sorry. The different voices offer a different perspective, and we would all reach different people. Colonel, the those who were fighting in the Lyran Wars in order to protect humanity were known as the Black League. Does that ring a bell with you in any way, shape, or form?
It's the first time I've heard those words, but it reminds me of the uniform I was in. I mean, it reminds me exactly of the uniform I was in on that ship. And
we were known as the Black League, and we would fight. We were fighting the battles in order to slow down the Orion Empire so that the civilians could get away and get as far away as they could from the battle to try to preserve our race, the human race.
I mean, basically, it's you remember during the days of Star Trek, and then they had Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica was the documentary of the human race moving out of the affected areas where the reptiles were attacking to get us safely to Earth.
It's my understanding that the Navy was very helpful. Naval intelligence was very helpful in offering ideas in regards to that. And of course, we know Gene Roddenberry was very involved with naval intelligence, and the Navy was very involved in trying to get a lot of these kind of ideas and thoughts into movies and sci-fi and television. So, as always, Navy was on the ball and steering the ship.
And I think it's all of it is a part of disclosure. I mean, going back to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I think that was probably one of the most first really serious efforts at disclosure.
Yeah,
that movie, and it's a classically good movie, well-made movie. But I mean, it definitely opened the door to disclosure down the line.
It was very moving. Yeah.
Colonel Sellers, real quick question. Do you get a sense, you mentioned that these entities have, in your specific example, went on to Los Angeles. Hopefully they'll talk to Gavin Newsom and wake him up. A little joke there, but would you say that do you get a sense that you personally maybe visited again for further interaction?
I
Tell
do.
me about that.
I fully expect it. I fully expect it. Probably when I'm least expecting it. But I think that those of us that they were visiting, I think we're going to get revisited.
Thank you, Alex, sir. Do you care to share any of your firsthand, intimate experiences with off-world entities, as Colonel Sellers has shared some of his?
Well, Colonel Sellers it would seem that he's met a coalition of different races that are all working together. Me, I'm going to just make a leap and say members of Star Alliance. My interaction has only been with the Andromedans from Zenite. And every experience I have has been so remarkable. There's not one experience that didn't leave me wanting to stay with them because of a matter of just feeling so completely at peace and feeling as safe as I ever could have imagined that I would ever be. Whenever I was in their presence, that's exactly how I felt. They're just an extraordinary race. They're very healed. They practice what is called the law of consistency, where regardless of the age of any of their population, everyone learns the exact same things. An example, as soon as they can walk, they start learning about their starship. They begin to learn about their food processing. They learn all about their sciences. They go to school for approximately 150 years if we were to convert that into Earth time, where they learned all the sciences, they learned everything that there is. If they're active duty on a starship, they know every nut and bolt, just like the captain or the admiral of every ship would know. They've learned it all. So any one of them could take over and be a leader. And this is what they call the law of consistency. They practice raising a race of leaders. And everyone gets along, everyone understands. Because they're telepathic, there are no secrets. Everyone has to be authentic. It's just an absolutely remarkable place to be.
And when the away team, I call them the away team, was visiting me that night, I had this feeling. At one point, for some reason, my wife, she couldn't hear him, she couldn't see him, and she couldn't hear him. Later on, it was made clear to me that the reason probably was because I was on their frequency, so I could see and hear them because we were all on the same frequency. But Michelle was not. My wife was not, so she wouldn't have been able to interact. And it made I'm a physics major. That made total sense when I started thinking about it that way. It made total sense to me that that's what was happening. But what really struck me was how protective they were, because so Michelle was watching me make show things and do things that she's not understanding what I'm doing. I told her that they're here, so I told her that we're being visited, and so she was aware of what was going on, but she couldn't actually participate. But at some point while they were visiting, closer towards the end when they were getting ready to leave, one of the men went over to Michelle. She was sitting on the couch, and he touched his fingers together and put his arms around her like a protective shield. And the girl, the female that was with him as a partner, she all of a sudden, she just floated up in the air in a lotus position, and she just moved sideways to where she was hanging in the air directly above Michelle. And I just knew in my heart, I knew right from the beginning of that, they're protecting her. They're making sure that she is not harmed by anything that's happening as a result of this conversation between us. That they're protecting her, and I felt that absolutely sure of that while that happened. And then just before they left, they pulled off of her, and they basically just said bye, and they left. They were on their way to California. I just thought it was an extraordinary event, and then followed up with what I still think is the history of the world being given to me over the next few days. It was just amazing.
Thank you, gentlemen. I want to provide some feedback. The common theme that I feel and experience listening to each of you share your intimate moments with these off-planet entities, what comes to my mind is high frequency, high vibration, love, safety, comfort, oneness, completeness. And I can feel the impact it had on each of you. So thank you for sharing that with our viewers. To my producer, at any moment, you can put up the image that Colonel Sells submitted to you, of a photograph that Chuck Sellers took. There it is. Talk with us, Chuck, about what we're looking at here on the screen. Where, when, time of day, location, etc.
It's what's kind of interesting about this is that, okay, so I saw the away team. They visited me in June the 7th, that week of 2021. So that picture was taken on November the 22nd, 2022. Okay, and the genesis of that, let me go in chronological order. October of 22, I was just coming in from the grocery store or something. It was just getting dark in the driveway, and it was still kind of twilight, but just getting dark. And that evening, I'm getting out of the car, and I just noticed something in the sky, and I looked, and it's darker than the sky around it. It was like super black. there's the sky was still somewhat blue around it, just turning dark, and the thing was big, and it was just hovering there in the air. We're in Richmond, Texas, and it was hovering there, and it was moving west to east at a really slow, steady rate. And the best way I could describe it, it looked like a nuclear submarine in the air, but the conning tower, instead of being on top, the conning tower was below it, and the conning tower was towards the front of the ship of the craft, and it moved just slowly and silently through Sugar Land, through Richmond, and then it slowly turned right to the south and disappeared off over Sugar Land. And I didn't, so it was like, oh my God, I went in. I had to tell Michelle about it. I said, I just saw the craziest thing outside. And that was in October. And then this is on November of 22, on November 22nd, actually. And the genesis of this was I could not see this craft or whatever in the sky with the blue light on it. In the sky it was like a white, super bright white kite tail, like a ribbon. It was just waving in the breeze in the sky. And I was going, this is a strange, really strange thing. I called Michelle to come out and watch it with me, and she saw it. She actually saw it a little different than I did. She seemed to see three different little kite tails that would intertwine with each other. And we watched it for 20 minutes. I'm going, okay, let me get my camera. I started videoing it. This is a still that was taken out of the videos. When I went into the house, remember, I'm not seeing this ship. I'm seeing a kite tail in the sky. So I'm looking on my camera on the video of the phone to look for the kite tail. And as I'm looking at the video, and there's half a dozen videos, I started looking at them all, and all of a sudden, popping into the frame of view is that craft, that shape. And to me, it looks like a saucer with a blue dome on top of it, I believe. I guess it could be inverted. But this is what I saw on camera, not the kite tail. So I think what we did was we took a picture. We were taking video of something that was on the other side of the kite tail or the portal. In my mind, I was probably looking through a portal. And it's really, I thought was interesting. About a month ago, I had a person who saw one of these shows, and she saw this, and she heard me talk about the kite tail, the ribbon in the sky, and she sent me an email telling me that about a year ago, her and her grandson in California had the exact same experience. The kite tail in the sky, and they watched it for minutes and minutes. She said it's exactly the same experience that you described. So what I think this might be related to the visit by the away team 6 months prior, and then it happens, or 8 months prior, or whatever it was. I'm just saying, because all of this started happening together. Now I've seen some things, lights in the sky before. Usually it's a blue light. Several times there was a blue light that was basically trailing me or flying alongside me on a car on the interstate coming from where I was doing some work in the Pentagon in DC, and then driving back to Fort Bragg. And my buddy that was driving with me, that was working with me, he saw the same thing. And it followed us for some miles, and then it zoomed off in a 90-degree angle and disappeared. And that's happened a couple of times, and it was both coming from DC back to Fort Bragg. I think these things could be all related. And I guess we can talk about this later, but I later, through some other experiences that I was having, I started having memories of. I had this. One of my earliest memories is of a ball of light, orange light, like fire in the sky, like a fireball in the sky, a basketball of size orange light in the sky. That's one of my first memories. And then I've had some experiences over the last couple of years where some of those memories are coming back. Maybe they're not the way I was. I was always remembering it as a shooting star for some reason, but I don't know why, because it doesn't look like a shooting star. It's hanging in the sky outside the picture window of the house we were living in when I was about 4 years old. And then my next memory is they told me that I was having a lot of nosebleeds. And then, so the memory that I remember is being on a metal table, like a hospital table, but it was a metal table, and people in white clothes were around me, and they were sticking these long 10-inch needles up my nose, and it was hurting me intensely right in the center of my forehead. And I mean, that's one of my oldest memories was the pain of that, and the nosebleeds, and the pain in the center of my head. And now I'm wondering, did I actually see a UFO that was sitting out in the front yard? That ball of light, and then was the pain? Was it really the correct memory that I was having nosebleeds? Or maybe the nosebleeds are coming from whatever they were sticking up my nose to implant into my forehead. So my thought process changed drastically over the last couple of years, that maybe those memories were not the memories that were placed in my head, because they often do that. And if you read the novels, or not novels, you read the eyewitness accounts, from the fire in the sky encounter with the lumberjack in Arizona back in the 70s. You read some of these encounters, and there's a lot of similarity with that orange ball hanging in the sky. Men in white or people in white coats with a metallic table, no sheets, and you're laying on it, having things put in your nose. I started opening my mind to possibilities of what might have actually happened back then.
Thank you, Colonel Sellers, for sharing all that information with us and your personal experiences. It's extraordinary. We're going to take a final lap or two in this broadcast before we can conclude. I'm going to seemingly shift gears radically, but it's really, I have a feeling, somewhat related. We'll go to Alex and certainly have you weigh in too, Chuck. Elon Musk and Nikola Tesla. What I'll throw at the marker board here, take it wherever it leads us. I have opinions about Elon Musk, who he is or was, or what's happened with the entity, but that's for another broadcast. But what we, among many other things that we hear and see from Elon Musk, a lot of discussion about AI, the good and the cautions, a lot of discussions about robots, that perhaps they'll exceed humans down the line. Certainly will be taking over the majority of the industrialized workforce of the world in a matter of a short few years. We hear things about speed and time travel that we'll be able to get, from New York to LA in 15 minutes type of situation. We know about the patents that Donald Trump's uncle got, the MIT professor, from Nikola Tesla, that whole story, zero-point energy, anti-gravity, time travel, and portals. When I throw all that at the marker board, Alex, what role do you see, if any, concerning these two individuals, Elon Musk and Nikola Tesla? What did they know? What do they know? Have they had similar interactions that each of you have had? Anything that comes to your mind regarding these individuals?
Well, let's start with Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla had said often that he was contacting and talking to beings on Mars. He was very open about that. But everybody just thought, well, he's just eccentric because he's a genius, et cetera, et cetera. So they relatively dismissed it. today it's not as ludicrous as it sounds, obviously. He just saw the world very differently. He was a man who was born probably at the wrong time. And because the things that he did, there were so many forces against him. The free energy, how he lit up the World's Fair of 1893, of 1898, of 1903. These were massive World's Fairs, St. Louis, San Francisco, Chicago. He lit them up. There were sidewalks that were moving. People didn't have to walk. All they had to do was get on these things. Electric cars. We had electric cars in the 20s. Okay, that was the first time we had electric cars. And they would get 700 miles, on a full charge. And I mean, this is documented, and then it all went away. So, he was just a man born he wasn't born the right time for him. But nonetheless, his legacy has survived. Now, as far as Elon Musk, each individual plays a role. Now, Elon Musk may have his ideas of what's going to be, but it's really we, the people, that have to make those decisions. Not Elon Musk, not any single billionaire or politician. The sovereignty, the decisions of what's best for humanity needs to come from humanity. The problem is that we have been conditioned to stand on the sidelines and make others make decisions for us. I see that absolutely coming to an end. And it's going to start here in America, and it's going to spread like wildfire. And we're just not going to put up with it anymore. If it's something that truly benefits all of humanity, then we will probably be on board. If it just benefits the billionaires, then it's just not going to work. We're not going to do it. We're not going to allow it. So he's a brilliant guy. He has a lot of great ideas. However, many of them are about him and his company. I don't see how it's truly going to serve humanity yet. And that is going to be the question that's going to come up over and over and over again. Why are we doing this when it doesn't benefit humanity? So things are shifting. The tide is shifting. Humanity is coming back into its own. And I think a lot of these narratives we see now, 5 years from now, are going to be extremely different. They're going to be on the defensive, trying to push these ideas that are self-serving, and humanity is going to be pushing back, saying, but if it doesn't benefit all of us, why are you going to do it? So that's just how I see it. I don't see him evil. I mean, if that's even Elon Musk. There may be a second and third version of him at this point. He jokes about being an extraterrestrial. I don't know that it is a joke. He just figures nobody's going to believe him anyway. So, but that's how I feel about what's happening now. Nothing's written in stone anymore.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to mention this. I was reluctant to do so in this particular broadcast, but it seems applicable right now. We have a good friend. I know Chuck Sellers is aware of our good friend, retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lennox. And I've had Tom on the panel, as you know, and different broadcasts. He's come on with us. And I'm going to bring him on next month as well to this show, Offworld with JMC. So I'll just leave it as a cliffhanger and get some feedback from each of you gentlemen. And we'll dive into it deeper with Tom Lennox himself. But he had mentioned to me on and off air that President Trump has gone through a portal to the other side. I think he used the term the Galactic Federation, but I don't want to put words in his mouth. We'll bring him on. And that President Trump himself and some of his family members, as I recall him stating, went to the other side and are working with entities. In fact, the President Trump, for lack of a better term, has some level of muscle and authority with these entities here to serve us. My question, we'll go to Chuck and then Alex, and anything you want to unpack on this. How much does the president know? A lot more than meets the eye? I'll keep it simple like that. Colonel Sellers.
I think so. I think he does. And there's a school of thought, and he could be right smack dab in the middle of this school of thought, President Trump. There's a school of thought that AI is growing so fast that it just the idea that it's controllable is that idea is kind of being stretched, that we're adequately controlling it. And this theory is that we finally lose control of the AI. Okay, so think of the Terminator movies, more than just the one of the original one. The Terminator movies, where there's a school of thought that says the AI has gotten so dangerous, and that 500 million years from now, extinction of humanity was 500 years from now. I'm sorry. Extinction of humanity was a very real danger, and it was, lurking right out there. And eventually, AI wanted to kill everything and take over everything for itself, and that we realized the danger, and that we were able to, if you believe in time travel, come back in time 500 years to fix the things that allow the AI to grow out of control. And we fix it now in this time, so that we prevent the collapse 500 years from now. I think that that's an entirely valid line of thought, because just think about it. I think Star Trek, the movie Star Trek, the TV show, was a documentary of what we had been doing millions of years ago. Okay. I think Battlestar Galactica, that came after Star Trek, was a documentary of the flight of humanity from the attacking reptiles in the Lyran star systems, and that where they were actually fighting to stay alive and make their way to Earth to colonize and survive the attack by the reptilians. All of those things seem possible. And in movies that are out, all the movies that are out back it up. To me, they're like documentaries. Nothing's new under the sun. They're all documentaries of something that happened in the future, and that hopefully we're learning from now.
Yes, I would add the movie The Matrix to the list of documentaries.
Exactly.
For certain. We're going to wind this broadcast down with a final question, and then open the floor to anything you gentlemen want to share. And we'll go back to Alex. And if you care to comment quickly, Alex, on President Trump, does he know a lot more than meets the eye, especially off the heels of what was reported by Tom Lennox?
I think all the presidents after Bill Clinton had to be given more information. Remember, Bill Clinton tried like crazy to get information regarding proof of UFOs and extraterrestrials, and his head of the FBI and his director of the CIA kept hitting a stone wall because the NSA had classified that data, rhyolite and zebra above, so that the president couldn't be read into it. And so he didn't have the right classification. Getting back to something Colonel Sellers just said, sir, the Andromedans have said, and that I've been saying this for 35 years, that many souls from the future have come back in time to right a terrible wrong. In other words, we've incarnated here in order to right a terrible wrong that happens in the future. And that falls in line with what you just said, your comment. So I wanted to give you kudos on that. I think you're on the nose with that. You know, Trump is the guy. He was the guy. He is the right man at the right time at the right moment. He's just the one. And, you know, what I've learned is that heroes are always necessary, and they can be made from even the scantiest of materials. Not that Trump is, but it can be anybody. But they're always made out of necessity. And I think all of the experiences he has had, even the comparisons to Pat that have often been made in regards to him, General Patton, all of those things have come together to culminate. He has all the right experience. He has the temperament. He has the will. You know, I mean, the guy is as strong as you can imagine anybody. You know, he's got this iron will, and he's just the right guy to make this happen. And it's going to happen. We're going to be successful. We're going to break out of the matrix. We're going to be free. We're going to have an opportunity to manifest the world that we want. We just have to catch up, and we ourselves have to do the inner work so that we know what it is that we want. You can't build something if you don't know what it is you want. And that's something every one of us individually have to make decisions about. Who are we going to be, and what is it that we want, so that we can focus on manifesting it and making it happen. And we're going to be okay. I know that we're going to be okay. It's going to be a little rocky because people are still waking up. It's not going to happen overnight. It may take us another 15, 20, 25 years to really appreciate everything that's happened. But we'll get there. We will get there. And, you know, the ET piece, it's interesting, but ladies and gentlemen, it's not about the extraterrestrials. This is all about us. Their purpose for being here is to help remind us of who we are. All right? That's the reason. This is about us, humanity, on the earth, coming together, achieving our potential, understanding what our potential is, so that we can join the stars and help free other civilizations out there as well. Because we'll have the experience, you know, we will have the experience to mentor other races. And that's our contribution.
Thank you, sir. What do you anticipate, Alex, will be revealed as more and more files undoubtedly will continue to be released? What in my opinion, I think they'll be ratcheting up the intel and information they have, and gradiently and responsibly sharing it with the world. If I'm right about that, what do you anticipate might be revealed as time goes by?
Well, John, you are right. You are right. But, you know, the technology is going to be the one thing that everybody's going to see on the surface. But the most important, in my opinion, the most impactful information will be about our ability as souls to create, to manifest, to heal, and our power to manifest and create our future. The CIA has a lot of documentation on this, of studies that they have done for decades and decades, and they've classified virtually all of it so that we would not know our own power individually. I think that is going to be the most important thing, because no matter where we go, we have to become leaders. And in becoming a leader, we will learn to protect each other. We will defend each other, because only in defending each other will we remain free. And if we genuinely want to be free, we have got to learn to defend each other. That's the only way it's going to happen. And becoming a race of leaders, that's how we do it.
Thank you, sir. Any feedback and closing comments from you, Colonel Sellers?
I think you're exactly right, Alex. I mean, I think if we don't come together as a world, I mean, humans, a world of humans, we're all brothers and sisters. We're all part of humanity, and we have to come together, or we're not going to survive it. I mean, in the end, we have to work together, respect each other. I mean, hell, we got to love each other. That's I mean, if we don't do that, then we will fail again. But I think we will. I think we're making some pretty good headway into it. I think just us talking about this is helping people to come along and to open up and open your mind, because this could happen. And these things are happening to certain people amongst us. It's got to be a reason for it. I mean, it's not just random universe events, I don't believe. And so I think you're right on the money. I think that's the direction we're going, and that we have to go.
This is the course correction humanity's always needed.
Yeah.
It's right here, right now.
And we're living it.
It's unfolding right in front of us. It's unfolding right in front of us.
That's exactly right. We're all on that journey together right now, the course correction for all of humanity. And thank goodness we've got help from off-world entities. Alex, what's the best way for people to follow you and your work?
We have a website. It's Alex Collier, COLLIER.org. And we do a webinar every Friday with interviews with guests. Sometimes you're stuck just with me, and others we just do a Q&A. The entire 2.5, 3 hours is people just asking questions, and that's pretty much it. We're here to be of service, and this is the way we know to do it. So,
well, thank you for that. And while some of our audience knows you well, you of course came highly recommended by a lot of people to us, and how right they were. But we have so many people new to this dialogue for obvious reasons, and they're listening to you for the first time. So again, what's your website? Please, I encourage everyone to stay connected with Alex, learn more, get your questions answered, and get connected up to people in the light that are helping all of us help ourselves. What's your website again, sir?
Alex Collier, COLLIER.org.
Thank you very much. And Colonel Sellers, I'm not quite sure if you have a mechanism or desire to interact with the public, but if you do you care to share that with us now?
Yes, it's charles.sellers, SELLERS, 87@gmail.com. And I have received some very interesting emails from out in the field, and it's people with similar stories or similar experiences, and I find it valuable. I find it valuable to hear from you, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you both very much. This has been more than I expected on my first premiere show of Offworld, because it's a delicate subject, as you gentlemen well know. And I can't think of two better guests than to have launched this broadcast than you two gentlemen. I can't thank you enough. I request of our audience to share this broadcast far and wide. This is the beginning of at least my journey on taking this subject on. So God bless you both. Brings a whole new level of meaning to where we go one, we go all. I'll be right back with my closing announcements and my personal story to share with you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Join JMC Broadcasting's monthly Global Defense War Military Panel. JMC hosts an esteemed panel of military experts, including Ricardo Bosi, Tom Lennox, Chuck Sellers, Michael Jaco, Derek Johnson, Brad Wozni, and other military guests. Join us each month, where this panel of esteemed guests analyze the current events across a broad spectrum of topics, addressing the questions and concerns that you have. Subscribe for free by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com. John looks forward to seeing you at the next episode of the Global Defense War Military Panel broadcast, right here on jmcbroadcasting.com.
All right. Well, thank you for staying here with me. I'd like to leave you actually with a song that I wrote back in 1999-2000 in the mountains of Colorado, about 8,000 foot elevation. The song is called Powers of Light. And in short, before we run that song, I was in my home, again, over 8,000 foot elevation, population about 3,000 in the county, maybe 800 in the little town. And it was snowing, and it was beautiful and peaceful and serene. It was a Saturday morning, as I recall. And I had a rectangular window in this loft spot I was in with a skylight above. And that rectangular window, I'm watching this snow come down. And I'm a songwriter, for those that don't know that. And I had my acoustic guitars, again, 1999, I think, in the bed with me, and a micro cassette and a pad and a pencil. And I was inspired to write a song out of nowhere. And what happened to me is, the best way I can describe it, and I'll be brief, is I left my body on what seemed to be a beam of light right out that rectangular window into the sky. It was blue sky, and then above into darkness sky, into something that I couldn't describe. I don't know if I was gone a second or a lifetime. As I returned back, and it was a feeling of a roller coaster swoop, there I was, and the song just came out. And this is a true story. The song's called Powers of Light. I started playing chords I don't even know, and finger-picking patterns that I'd never done. And I heard the whole song, and the hook, if you will, of a song was very strong and emotional and came to me. Sure, thereafter, I, in the human sense, finished the crafting of it and put the lyrics and so forth to it. The song is called Powers of Light. I played the various acoustic 6 and 12-string guitars on this recording. I did the lead vocals, which I shouldn't be doing. I'm not a good singer. And two ladies, Britta and Mary, rest in peace, both from Colorado, joined the backing vocals. This song is called Powers of Light. And here are the lyrics, and I'll leave you with the song. Born again into this world, the plight of another eternal soul. In my travels before I returned, I'd seen what I needed to learn. The knowledge and wisdom instilled, for all, this shall be fulfilled. Off I go as an angel in flight, ascending, O powers of light. I am grateful for all that you are. Your true self shines as a star. I'm ascending as a spirit in flight, O powers of light, O powers of light. Century after century, the truth now unfolds. Before me now I can see, together as one we shall be. From the sacred cup flows the liquid light. The beloved great ones are here with me. Off I go as an angel in flight, ascending, O powers of light. I am grateful for all that you are. Your true self shines as a star. I'm ascending as a spirit in flight, O powers of light. I'll leave you with this song. I want to thank my two incredible guests for their experience shared with us, their knowledge, and their insights. Folks, thank you for joining us and coming through this portal for this course correction for all of humanity. Where we go one, we go all. I leave you now with Powers of Light. We'll see you next month on Offworld with JMC.
Born again into this world, the plight of another eternal soul. before my return. I've seen what I needed to learn. Knowledge and wisdom instilled for all, this shall be fulfilled. Off I go as an angel in flight, ascending, oh powers of light. Grateful for all that you are. Your true self shines as a star. I'm ascending as a spirit in flight. Oh, powers of light, powers of light. Century after century, the truth now unfolds before me. Now I can see, together as one we shall be. From the sacred cup flows a liquid light. Beloved great ones are here with me. Off I go as an angel in flight, ascending, oh powers of light. Grateful for all that you are. Your true self shines as a star. I'm ascending as a spirit in flight. Oh, powers of light. I am grateful for all that you are. Your true self shines as a star. I'm ascending as a spirit in flight. Oh, powers of light. I'm grateful for all that you are. Your true self shines as a star. I'm ascending as a spirit in flight. Oh, powers of light.